Hi there, friends. Welcome back to Lucky in Love. I am so happy that you decided to hang out with me today and listen to episode 2, which is how to create a relationship that feels effortless. I am so in love with this topic, mostly because it was inspired by my husband. So, my husband, his name is Jim. He and I have what we call a sunset date. Almost every day, we will meet up about that time and either hang out in our backyard, we'll jump in the hot tub, or we'll take our dog Roxy, I call her Roxy Girl, out for a walk. And it's during this time that we really are intentional about slowing down, talking, and connecting. And it was about 6 months ago during one of our dates that Jim mentioned to me just kind of randomly that he thinks that our relationship feels effortless. And I was really surprised. I was like, wow, because I can tell you right now, I know I am not always the easiest person to be in a relationship with. And so that just felt really good to know that my husband thinks that it's easy being in a marriage with me. And so, of course, we started talking about like what makes a relationship feel effortless and how did we get here. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. We're going to start by talking about what does it mean to have an effortless feeling relationship. And then I'm actually going to break down kind of like 6 different aspects of relationships for you to consider. And then I'm going to share with you our top 10 tips for creating an effortless feeling relationship of your own. So, to us, what an effortless feeling relationship is, it means that it feels comfortable and easy just being around each other, doing life together on a regular basis. These types of relationships tend to feel positive and supportive, even when you're going through challenging or difficult times. So it's not just easy when things are easy, but your relationship feels easy, even if there's outside um, stressors or pressure or challenges. So, what I would like you to do as you listen to this next part is think about your relationship for each aspect on a scale of 1 to 10. The closer to the number 10 you are in your mind, most likely that's an area that feels very easy for you in your relationship. So, the first aspect of relationships is communication. How easy is it for you to talk to each other? Are you able and do you often have open and vulnerable conversations and communications? Can you talk about anything with your partner? And do you talk about everything? Does your partner share with you just as much as you share with them? These are really important things to consider in terms of your communication within your relationship. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? So, aspect 2 is problem solving and decision making. Are you able to work as a team to deal with your issues? Do you make decisions together easily? And are you able to come to a resolution or a decision about something where you're both on the same page? Number 3 is how do you deal with conflict? How do you resolve your disagreements? Is it easy for you to settle problems and issues and disagreements without it turning into World War III in your house? Are you able to fully resolve issues or do they keep coming up over and over again? And after an argument is over, do you feel closer with your partner or do you feel further away from them? Number 4 is emotional intimacy. Do you feel connected to your partner or spouse? Does it feel safe just being you? Or do you feel like there are aspects of your personality or aspects of you that you have to minimize or dampen or not show them? How safe does your partner feel in the relationship with you? Can they just be themselves? And when we talk about this, it's really about connection. How connected do you feel to them, right? So, how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10 there? Number 5 is physical intimacy. Are you affectionate with each other on a regular basis? Are you on the same page about physical intimacy? Are you in agreement with how much you want or don't want sex? Are you in agreement with what kinds of sex that you want to have or desire to have? Where are you with that? And aspect number 6, I'm just calling this like daily life. How are you doing life together? Are you enjoying being around each other? Do you look forward to seeing each other at the end of the day? Or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Are you afraid of breathing the wrong way because then your significant other might get upset with you? Do you constantly feel like you're just kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop, right? So, how are you doing in daily life on a scale of 1 to 10? The higher your number, the easier the aspect of your relationship is. And that's really what the goal is for you today, for me, for you today, is hopefully to get you to a place where you're closer to all tens. Um, and for some of you, that might be more of a stretch than others. So all of these aspects of a relationship are constantly running in the background. This is literally all of these things are happening simultaneously all day long, and they ebb and flow depending on what season of a relationship that you're in. But they're all very important things to consider when you're thinking about your relationship. So, with that said, I wanted to quickly share our top 10 tips for creating a relationship that feels effortless. So, hopefully, you can get closer to the 8, 9s, and 10s in each of those categories. Every tip that I'm sharing is basically just a behavior, a relationship habit, or a way of thinking about the relationship that can help you. So, our first tip is to pay attention to how you're communicating. My husband and I, we literally talk about absolutely everything. I think it's pretty safe to say that we probably communicate more than anybody that we know. Um, because it's safe to bring up stuff. Like we don't worry about bringing up a topic. We know that we can talk about absolutely anything because we've built trust through our communication. We are able to have open, vulnerable discussions and conversations with each other. And so, how do you build trust in your communication in your relationship? Well, what we've done is we've made sure that we refrain from judgment of each other. We never throw information in each other's faces. So, like if I've shared something from my past that I have shame around or I regret, he never throws that in my face when we get in an argument. And I don't do that to him either. Uh, we assume that we're coming from a good place. If one of us brings up a kind of a touchy, sensitive subject, the other person just assumes that it's coming from a place of love, not a place of judgment or criticism. We are mindful about our tone of voice when we talk to each other. And here, I think this is an important key for us is that we call each other out if one of us kind of gets a crappy tone of voice. So he'll call me out or I'll call him out like, hey, your tone of voice is kind of crappy right now. We actually use other words, but it's kind of crappy right now. And then usually whoever is talking is like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean for it to be. I'm just getting a little upset. So maybe it's time that we take a break. So we definitely are really, really honest about how we're feeling when we are talking to each other. Number 2 is to address problems when they first come up. When you bring up issues when they are small, it's so much easier to resolve them. It is so much easier to nip something in the bud than wait for something small to kind of gain power and magnitude within your relationship. So, definitely not sweeping things under the rug is a great idea. And we also I think it's important to look at problems as we problems. Like he and I try really hard not to place blame, point fingers. It's more of, okay, how did we get here? What is each of our role in this? And what can we do moving forward? Number 3, okay, of all of them, I would say this one I think is my favorite. And I think it's actually one of the most important things that people can do. And if you're not doing this, please start doing this. It's turning in. Turning into your partner means that you have a positive response when they want affection from you. We call that a bid for affection. And when we talk about turning in, we talk about it in terms of how are you behaving or responding to your partner when you're in a disagreement or an argument, when you're upset with each other. Turning in when you are in a disagreement with each other is actually really, really a supportive way of dealing with conflict. So, like if we've had a disagreement and I'm upset about something, my husband will usually come over and either give me a hug or he'll reach out his hand. And I always reciprocate. I always hug him back and I always hold his hand 100% of the time, even if I'm still upset. And he does the same for me. If he's upset with me and I want a hug, and I always want the hug, he always hugs me back. And not in a going through the motions kind of way, in a sincere, I love you kind of a way, even though we're still upset with each other. And what this does is this reminds us that we are still connected and we're going to get through whatever it is that we're struggling with or dealing with right now. I actually learned this concept from the Gottman Institute, which by the way is a great relationship resource for you if you're interested. But they've done a lot of longitudinal studies of relationships and found that couples that turn into each other during times of struggle, challenge, disagreements have a higher likelihood of the relationship like being healthy and loving for in the long run versus the couples that turn out or like reject their partner's bid for affection. So definitely this is something that I would suggest that you start doing if you're not doing it already. Tip number 4 is to dial down the drama, y'all. um, for us, when we're upset with each other, we do not call each other names. We try not to say things we're going to regret, and we are not mean to each other. We might be thinking mean things like in the moment, but we don't say it out loud because we both know that you can't take it back. And so the way that you interact with each other when you're in a stressful time or when you're in your argument has a really big impact on how your relationship feels. Tip number 5 is to not correct each other in public. I know this probably sounds like a weird one, but so Jim and I sat down together and we created this list together. And this was one of the things that we both think is really important. And honestly, when I hear people doing this, it bugs the crap out of me. And it happens a lot, actually. So if my husband is telling a story and he gets some of the details wrong, I do not correct him in front of anybody. If he says, oh, this thing happened on a Thursday at 4, and in my head, I'm like, no, it didn't. It happened Sunday at 2. I don't correct him. I let it go because it doesn't matter. You guys, nobody listening to that story cares about the minutia, not really. And so you just let it go. And he gives me the same courtesy. The reason why this is important is because the moment you correct your partner in front of other people, it disconnects you. It creates distance and space between the two of you, and it does not feel very supportive. So let it go. My advice to you, if it's something that really bothers you, if it's a detail that's important to you, I suggest that you wait until your company leaves. You wait until you get in the car and you've left the restaurant to talk to them about it and come at it from a very neutral, loving place. Like, hey, when you were telling the story, this is what you said, but this is really what happened. And it's important to me. Maybe next time, can you try to remember that? Okay. So you do that in private, not in public. Number 6 is don't ruminate on negative thoughts. This is, I think, a really, really big reason why, at least in our relationship, we feel so positive about each other is because we don't ruminate on the negative stuff, especially when we're annoyed with each other. He and I, of course, both have things that bug each other, and we have actively worked on just letting it go. So if he has to hunt down my purse and go find the car keys for like the 10th time in a row, I'm sure that he's a little bit annoyed, but he doesn't ruminate on it. And I actually asked him, I said, what do you do when you get annoyed with me? Like, how do you change that? And he says, I just remind myself how much I love you. And for me, if I walk into the kitchen and all of the drawers are open and the cabinets are left open, I just shut them. And I don't allow myself to be annoyed because it doesn't really matter. It takes 5 seconds, right? But most people don't do that. Most people see this annoying thing happen again and they ruminate on the negative thoughts about their partners. So that is something that I think is an important part of having an easy feeling relationship. Number 7 is to thank each other. When you do normal, everyday, daily life stuff, thank each other. When I go to the grocery store, like, most relationships, we have kind of these jobs that we do. So Jim does most of the cooking, he does most of the laundry. I do most of the grocery shopping and most of the picking up, making the bed, cleaning up, stuff like that. Um, he'll, switch over the laundry, whatever. We thank each other for doing those things. Yes, we've agreed that these are quote unquote our jobs, but we thank each other for doing them. Because let's be honest, um, he's appreciative of the fact that I go to the grocery store and he doesn't have to most of the time. I'm appreciative of the fact that he cooks dinner almost every single night, right? So we both feel very valued and appreciated on a daily basis from each other. And I think that's a really big part of having a relationship that feels positive and supportive and effortless. Number 8 is to be affectionate. Um, he and I are very, very affectionate. I think that's probably an understatement. Our kids tease us, our friends tease us, but we don't care. We are very much in love with each other and we enjoy touching each other and hugging and holding hands and kissing and all that. We never ever leave the house without a hug and a kiss. And that's just something. And if one of us does, they instantly like remember and come back and we'll do that. It's one of our ways of staying connected and showing each other that we are thinking about them and care. So I think affection is a really big part of creating a relationship that is easy and light. And then number 9 is to not take yourselves too seriously. He and I have the privilege of doing a lot of really cool, amazing things, and we have a lot of awesome memories and we laugh a lot. But we also poke fun at each other. We tease each other all the time, even about like stuff that might feel sensitive. Like this last weekend, we were at the racetrack, we ride motorcycles, and I kind of got miffed about something. Um, and I took off and I was on the bike and I was kind of upset. And I got over it pretty quickly, but about an hour later, he starts teasing me about it. And he's like, "What, too soon?" And we both just kind of started laughing because it was kind of ridiculous what I was miffed about. So it definitely makes your relationship feel lighter when you can poke and tease each other. And number 10, our top 10 tip, and this is definitely something that I wish more people did in their relationships, is we do a relationship check-in every 5 to 6 months. We usually do this during one of our sunset dates, but you can do it anywhere. Um, so every few months, we literally spend at least a half an hour talking specifically about our relationship. Where do we think we're doing really well? What do we think we can improve on? What have we enjoyed about each other the last 5 or 6 months? What do we want the next 5 or 6 months to look like? What are some things that we are maybe concerned about or that's on our heart or weighing on us? That is the time that we really talk about our relationship specifically. And what this does is this is our way of making sure that we stay on the same page, that we kind of know what direction we're going, and it gives us a way to kind of course correct if something is going kind of off kilter. We have very much normalized talking about our relationship when it's good. And what that's done is it's made it easier to bring up issues if we feel like something in our relationship is feeling hard or really challenging. And I think this is a great habit that almost everybody could benefit from. So those are our top 10 tips. But here's the deal, like our relationship did not start out feeling effortless. Of course, like everyone else, right? We had to learn how to be vulnerable and open. We hurt each other's feelings. We had to work through miscommunications and misunderstandings. But all of that, through working through all of that, that is how we created these 10 things that we do on a regular basis in our relationship. So this was our list. What would you put on your list? Do you want to steal any of them? I hope you do, because these are generally speaking some pretty healthy relationship habits. But I want you to think about your relationship. What area of those 6 different areas I talked about earlier, what area do you think that you might need to work on? Which areas feel easy? Which areas feel hard? What would it look like if that one aspect of your relationship was easy? And what are 1 or 2 things you can do differently to make it feel easy, right? Is there something you can start doing Is there something you can stop doing? And I don't want you to think, because right now in your head, you're probably like, well, if my partner just stopped doing ABC, it would all be fine. No, I'm asking you what you think you can do to make that part of your relationship feel a little bit easier. So, what do you do with this information depending on what phase of a relationship you're in? If you are single or in a new relationship, now is the time to start developing good relationship habits. And I would highly suggest that you go back over the top 10 tips that I've given you and see if you can start incorporating some of those. If you are absolutely happy in your relationship and you're like, we are a 10 out of 10 on every single one of those, that is amazing. And I think that it'd be awesome if you would tell your partner how much you love them and how much you appreciate your relationship and how you're feeling about all those different aspects. Um, Talking about what is going well in your relationship really reinforces your bond, and it reinforces positivity and support. Now, if you're in a committed relationship and you are not happy, or you feel like there are lots of areas that are just hard right now, I would suggest picking just one or two and start looking at what can you do to change that one or two area, right, in your relationship. So maybe it's communication, maybe it's the area of just like daily life. And so you want to start with small behaviors like not ruminating on negative thoughts about your partner, deciding you're not going to be annoyed by that one thing that they do consistently that bugs you. Like, just make the decision that it's not going to bother you anymore and go forward, right? There's always a couple of things that you can do to make every single one of those relationship aspects just a little bit easier. So, that is what I have for you today, my friends. I sincerely hope that you found this to be helpful. And if you did, if you enjoyed this, would you please do me a favor and share this with your friends and family and everyone in your life? And also make sure that you subscribe. And that is it for today. I hope that you all have a beautiful, fantastic week. See you next time.